as well. The first feature of a wall drive is that it propels your opponent to the wall either in a combo or on block, usually causing chip damage if they connect to the wall. The second feature of a wall drive is its ability to create an extra wall splat on an opponent. This extra wall splat can only be used if the opponent has been hit against the wall after their feet have left the ground. For example, wall carry combos or high wall splats. Now remember the rule of wall combos: 2 hits and the third hit causes the wall slump. Rage drives, however, do not count as part of these hits. So this is the second way we've come across of how to extend the number of hits you can get on the wall. Just remember that the game keeps count of the number of hits and the rage drive does not reset the number of hits. It's just a free, unregistered hit. Now, majority of the rage drives in this game are simply enhanced versions of moves that already exist normally. For example, Paul gets a super death fist to his normal death fist because who wouldn't want a super death fist? It has a bigger hitbox and comes out faster, and honestly, ew. If you look at the frame data and add the 2 frames of input, a normal death fist comes out earliest at 15 frames while a super death fist comes out earliest at 14 frames. This faster speed and better hurtbox give him a chance to get even more damage, where before he would, actually have to try. Keep in mind that once your opponent has entered airborne status, if they get hit against the wall with the wall drive, you do get a chance at a normal wall combo. Now this might be a bit confusing, but after a wall bounce you do still get a chance at a resplat, even when their back is against the wall. Let's look at this Paul fellow a bit closer. He has this rage art console that no one else has, and he has that rage drive. These are both fantastic rage moves, so how does a Paul player know what to do and when? The cumulative difference in damage is usually very minuscule, but there are some situations where the rage drive shines by far more than the rage art. Now, there are multiple ways of hitting your opponent against the wall, besides launches and wall bounces and whatnot. The key to using a wall drive to its maximum potential is capitalizing on these few situations. The high wall splat is a classic, and it's the most reliable way of hitting your opponent against the wall and meeting these conditions. Most moves, but not all of them, that cause this spiraling knockdown also work. Now, such high damage moves can be used in an even more clever way when we hit them before they hit the wall, because once they hit the wall, the scaling is completely different. There's also this knockdown animation where the opponent falls backwards. The spacing can be quite tricky and unreliable. Most of the times you'll just end up getting a ground hit and no wall splat. Don't try and cheat the system. Once that initial wall splat has happened, even though you resplat in what manner, you will not get the extra resplat. This knockdown animation simply won't work for you unless you find a way to pick them up and into the wall again. If the back was already against the wall, then you're not getting your resplat, so. The wall drives also don't work from every angle. You can't be too far off to the side, you have to be either just slightly off or dead on. So far it's like 0 pros for the wall drive, but hold on, I'm getting there. There are these situational strings that can wall splat your opponent. Those are very useful for wall drives. If you manage to stun your opponent in a way that doesn't allow the typical wall combo, these wall drives can give you a chance to do that. In Paul's case, however, because of his rage art cancel, he has easier ways of doing this than the rest of the cast, but it's still worth mentioning anyway. Now, a good wall drive has a huge hurtbox. This allows you to create huge combos where typically you would just get peanuts. Again, with Paul, since he has multiple options, you have to decide what to use, when, and why, which is a refreshing layer of depth at least. Look at the hurtbox of the normal move compared to the hurtbox of the rage drive. Fascinating. The tailspin animation will allow you to get your resplat, but there has to be some distance between them and the wall, otherwise it's just a normal wall splat. A character like Paul, who has many good hard wall splats, will be able to benefit more often from the rage art cancel than the rage drive. Well, it's kind of a mixed bag situation. It is good to have many options, but it's kind of limiting for the game, but at the same way it makes your game plan simpler if you know you only have one possible option to do. So take that as you may. By the way, throws that wall splat don't count as your opponent ever going airborne, so you're not gonna get a resplat. Thank you, Harada. But on that note, this throw you're seeing has such bad recovery that you cannot use the rage at cancel. You have to use the rage drive. Well, you don't have to use the rage drive, you can do the normal wall combo, but if you're gonna spend it, it's worth a lot of damage, so I think it's worth considering. Now, characters with good counter hits take the most advantage of these wall drives because they can be able to get a proper hard wall splat despite knocking your opponent down at your feet, which, because of the scaling we mentioned earlier, is fantastic. Just as a by the way, I wish more throws worked like this. I think it's really cool.